Chapter 42. Sierra stumbled forward, startled by the sudden emptiness. Several trembling shadows scattered off into the night. She spat at them and turned to Wick. He crouched against the wall, covered head to toe in thick, murky, haint ichor. "It started as fascination," he stammered. "It was an act of love. To spread the knowledge of the tradition. It's what your grandfather wanted to spread." "Don't talk about my grandfather," Sierra growled. "Sierra," he raised a shivering hand. "I just want to explain." "I don't want your explanations." Sierra closed her eyes for a second and immediately heard her mother screaming again. She slid her spirit vision along the streets till she found hers, watched in horror as Maria Santiago and Uncle Neville came tearing out of the brownstone and ran down the dark sidewalk. Two thronged haints lurched out the door a second later, galloping after them at full speed. Then a great wall of swirling colors flooded forward from the far end of the block. Robbie was a tiny, dreadlocked general beneath the technicolor onslaught of painted warriors. The old guitar-playing skeleton and the Manny Dragon rearing above him. Maria and Neville fled toward them, the demon haints only a few feet behind. With a terrific smashing, the two forces collided, and Maria and Neville disappeared in the chaos. Sierra whirled on Wick, her every muscle aching to crush his windpipe. "Sierra," he whispered. She stalked over to him, slid her hands around his neck. It would be so easy. Just a flicker of her suddenly ferocious fingers, and it'd be all over. She squinted at him writhing in her hands, acutely aware of the huge battle raging on her block. Her mommy caught up in the midst of it. But no, death was too simple an ending for Dr. Jonathan Wick. It left him too much room for some nefarious rebirth in the afterlife. Sierra studied his trembling lips and tear-stained eyes. She could do better than death, she decided. She was a surgeon, not a butcher. She concentrated for a half second, and then simply allowed all the spirits churning inside her to surge forward into Wick. They left memories behind as they passed from her hands. A dizzying collage of smells, moments, emotions, longings sped through Sierra's entire body. She was on a horse in the rainforest, galloping toward freedom. She was alone in a cell, coming to terms for the 400th time with her imminent death and the deaths she'd dealt. She was in the full rapture of love. She was ashamed. Her brain simmered with bursts of lilac, cigar smoke, sweat, the cringe of a missed opportunity, pangs of hunger. Most of all, though, she felt alive. The dead were so alive. They carried their whole lives with them in those tall, walking shadows, brought each second, each thrill and tragedy with them wherever they went. She looked down at Wick. He screamed as the spirits swarmed through him, burrowing into the most intimate reaches of his soul. Sierra sharpened her mind and allowed her vision to slip alongside the spirits as they thundered through the old anthropologist's inner workings. "Take his powers," Sierra told them, but they were already on it. Little flashes of light blinked out as the spirits sped through his blood vessels and entrails, crisscrossing synapses and cell membranes. All his powers. Sierra could feel the purge, feel the tremendous vacuum as every last echo of Wick's spiritual power was obliterated like a ramshackle hut in a monsoon. The vacuum changed him on the outside as well. His skin became ragged and dry, sagged into pathetic folds on top of itself. His mouth hung open, drool trickling out. His teeth turned black and crumbled in seconds. She let go of his neck and stood back. The spirits were leaving him now, shadows flickering off into the thick warehouse air. Wick slumped to his knees, shriveled and broken. You've murdered me. Sierra rolled her eyes, then closed them to check on her mommy. Her block was awash in color. Sierra's dragon mixed with several of the skeletons and mermaids from Club Cow 4. Robbie's demons were now paint puddles on the sidewalk, the spirits of the throng haints scattered. Maria Santiago stood panting beside Robbie and Neville. Sierra let out a sigh and opened her eyes. She took a last look at the splattered walls, then stepped over Wick's whimpering body and walked down the stairs. Juan, Benny, T, and Nydia were rising wearily from their hiding places, dusting themselves off. The 5 friends exchanged hugs, tears, stories, gasps, and laughter, and then walked together to the ground floor. Sierra could hear the spirits still humming their sacred harmonies, calling out her brand new name. They strode in slow circles around her, breathing in and out, like the summer breeze. She smiled, for what felt like the first time in a long while. And then she and her friends all walked out together into the dark blue Brooklyn morning.